Welcome to the Explainer. So, consider this your virtual lecture hall today. You know, as an economics professor, I see people, even the real heavy-hitter experts, fall into this one very specific trap all the time. If you flip on the financial news, you're just bombarded with these complex mathematical formulas, massive data sets, and lately all these grand promises about how AI is going to magically solve all our economic problems. But here's the secret. Managing an economy perfectly with just algorithms and data, it's a complete myth. Today, we're going to look at a classic theory that proves exactly why the economy just can't be neatly programmed. Because think about it for a second. When the government rolls out a new law or an economic rule, do you just blindly follow it like a line of code executing a command? Well, no, of course not. You anticipate the future. You look at that new rule, you figure out how it's going to hit your wallet, and you adapt your behavior. You're a human being, not a pre-programmed robot. And honestly, this simple, undeniable fact is exactly what makes economics so endlessly fascinating and incredibly difficult to control. Here's our syllabus for today. First, we'll establish how humans are the true economic actors. Then we'll cover the essence of the Lucas critique, look at 3 real-world reactions to policies, see how this critique holds up in the AI era, and finally, unpack the black box of human psychology. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. Humans are the economic actors, and why we have to look beyond math and AI. To really understand where economics is heading, we actually need to look back at a major light bulb moment from our past.
Back in 1976, Robert Lucas introduced a Nobel Prize-winning theory that completely flipped common sense on its head. It's called the Lucas critique. Basically, it shattered this old-school belief that you could just look at past economic data, pull a policy lever, and get this perfectly guaranteed result. Lucas argued that people aren't static. The absolute second you change the rules of the game, people change how they play the game. Moving on to Section 2, the essence of the Lucas critique and exactly why past data fails us. We've got to remember that people are thinking, calculating actors who watch their surroundings and predict the future for themselves. We don't just react to what's happening right now, we strategize for tomorrow. So, relying solely on historical statistics to craft new policies, it's basically a recipe for some really frustrating backfires. Think about it. If a government uses data from the 1990s to predict how people will react to a new tax today, they're going to be totally shocked when the outcome is completely different. And why is that? Because the very act of announcing that new tax instantly changes how people behave. Boom! The old data is entirely obsolete. All right, Section 3, 3 reactions to policies, turning this theory into reality. In my lectures, I always find that concrete examples really bring this concept to life. Let's take monetary easing as our first example. The government's whole intent is to print money, flood the market, and give the economy a nice little boost. But what do actual human beings do? They hear those printing presses running and instantly think, uh-oh, prices are going to go up. So instead of a smooth economic boost, that fear of rising prices triggers preemptive actions. People might start hoarding goods or shifting their investments, which completely derails the government's whole plan before it even gets off the ground. Or ask yourself this: if you got a massive tax cut today, would you immediately run out and blow it all? Or would you tighten your wallet, kind of anticipating that the government will need to recover that money eventually? The government assumes a tax cut equals instant consumer spending, but thinking individuals, they look at the massive national debt and realize, yeah, they're definitely raising taxes later to pay for this. So instead of spending, they save that extra money to prepare. And just like that, the intended economic boom flatlines. Third scenario, market regulation. The government wants to control a specific business practice, right? So they write up this dense, massive new rule book. But companies don't just sit there and take it. They deploy armies of brilliant accountants and lawyers to find loopholes before the ink is even dry. They completely change their corporate structures and bypass the intent of the law so fast that the regulations become practically useless almost instantly. Humans are just way too creative to be perfectly boxed in like that. Which brings us to Section 4, the Lucas critique in the AI era. This is where we get a real plot twist. You might be sitting there wondering, well, with advanced AI and massive data processing, can we finally solve this unpredictability? Surely supercomputers can outcalculate human behavior now, right? Actually, no. Let's explore why that's a massive misconception. Far from fixing the problem, artificial intelligence literally supercharges the Lucas critique. It is a huge mistake to think AI is just some tool for policymakers. This tech is completely democratized now. That means everyday economic actors, regular people, and businesses are armed with the exact same predictive superpower.
The irony here is just profound. The government uses this massive AI to crunch past data and craft what they think is an airtight, perfect economic policy. But citizens aren't just sitting idly by. They're firing up their own AI tools to instantly simulate the impacts of that exact same policy. So while the government is using AI to plan, humans are using those identical tools to front-run the policy, figuring out exactly how to protect their assets and shift their wealth long before the law even takes effect.
Because humans can react and run simulations so incredibly fast now, the expiration date on economic data is practically zero. I mean, we used to rely on data that was months or even years old. Now, what was perfectly valid yesterday is entirely useless by tomorrow. If millions of people use an AI app to instantly alter their financial portfolios the very second a policy is rumored, the government's data is literally outdated within 24 hours.
And that leads us perfectly into Section 5, the black box of human psychology, the unsolvable variable. As a professor, this right here is the absolute core concept I want you to walk away with today.
So why can't AI perfectly predict us? Well, while AI is absolutely fantastic at analyzing the past, the raw, dynamic fluctuations of human emotion remain a complete black box. AI algorithms only know what humans have done. They are trained entirely on historical data. But humans, we form complex, forward-looking expectations in real time. When an entirely new crisis hits or a totally novel policy is announced, it triggers emotions, panic, greed, relief, trust, that have absolutely zero historical precedent. You simply cannot mathematically program the messy, unpredictable reality of human psychology.
No matter how incredibly advanced our technology gets, economics just isn't the study of numbers. It's the study of human behavior under scarcity. If policymakers forget the human element, it doesn't matter how sophisticated or AI-generated their policies are, they will always fail against the sheer willpower and adaptability of everyday people.
I'll leave you with this final thought to ponder. As machines take over the data and do all the heavy mathematical lifting, perhaps mastering the unpredictable depths of human psychology is the only real advantage we have left. When everyone has access to the ultimate calculating machine, the ultimate differentiator is empathy, insight, and a true understanding of human nature. Thank you so much for joining me in this virtual lecture hall today. And as always, keep questioning the numbers.